Boar's Head is bringing a slice of Japan to the deli. Introducing Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. Tender, slow-roasted chicken breast, coated in our signature teriyaki glaze, where ginger, garlic, and a hint of brown sugar meet for a flavor that's both sweet and savory. New Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. The bold flavor of Japan. Now at the deli. Only from Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good evening, folks, and thank you for tuning in with me once again for another edition of True Conservative Radio. And, of course, I'm your host, the man they call Ghost, and I thank you for tuning in with me, whether it's you're tuning in with me live or on the archive. I appreciate it eitherwise, and I didn't mean to rhyme. So anyway, folks, we have, sporadic shows going on as far as True Conservative Radio is concerned. I'm just going off at random hours of the evening. Hopefully you have kept up with us on the archive. If not, hopefully you're with us live this evening. And we're going to talk about some things that have to do with America. You know, you have a lot of these Blog Talk Radio hosts, and that's where we're broadcasting from, ladies and gentlemen, is a Blog Talk Radio network, excuse me. You have a lot of these hosts out here, spewing off a bunch of nonsense about, this ridiculous presidential campaign. And what I don't understand is how any of these candidates, whether it's Hillary Rotten Clinton, Barack Hussein Obama, or John Turncoat McCain, for the life of me, I don't understand how these people gain resonance in popular America based on their lack of political substance. These people have said absolutely nothing. They haven't debated any type of issue that really, pertains to the average, everyday American person. On the contrary, you got these people touting 20 million amnesty for the illegals. I mean, they're touting a lot of liberal garbage. And, of course, if you've kept up with the archive, and I strongly urge you to do so, you'll know that I've been sick and tired of all this garbage. Okay? I mean, it's been sicking me, and you know me as a true conservative. This program used to be called True Conservative Republican Radio, but I took the Republican off because, like I stated previous, the Republican Party's been hijacked by liberals. It's obvious by this John Turncoat McCain character who is basically wiped his derriere with the First Amendment with McCain-Feingold. And I don't even want to get into it. If you've listened to the archives, if you listened to me live before, folks, you know my disdain for John McCain. And it's just horrible how the Republican Party at this point is asking true conservatives and other old-school Republicans that still believe in less taxes, less government regulation, less government in our faces. I can't believe you got these people chastising me on Blog Talk Radio. All right, people are dedicating shows to me, on Blog Talk Radio because I won't, bow down to the Republicans and vote for John McCain, which will basically be a vote against my principles, against what I voted for all my life. Anyway, it's absolutely disgusting, folks. That's not what we're going to talk about this evening. We're going to be talking about a variety of different subject matters. I just wanted to lay that out once again, since we are in a somewhat of a presidential nomination race, or whatever you want to call this ridiculous nonsense over here. It doesn't really matter who you vote for. You're getting left either way. Anyway, folks, we're going to talk about a variety of different subject matters. First and foremost, I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in with me early. We're going to lead right into the right to bear arms. Folks, we had a semi-discussion about this topic last evening. Unfortunately, we had a static broadcast, a completely static written broadcast, thanks to the Blog Talk Radio Network, but we seem to have gotten that rectified for this program. So we're going to continue a little bit into that topic matter because I think that concerns all Americans. I think that since we have a bunch of liberals out here, both John Turncoat McCain and both of the candidates on the left, I think we should talk about issues that pertain to America. We had a conservative and I believe a blatant liberal last evening that were basically hinting around some sort of semi-ban on a person's Second Amendment, or they were trying to put some sort of a limitation of some sort, and I just couldn't disagree more. I mean, the bottom line is that it's obvious that our forefathers made it a point to make it an important amendment. It was the Second Amendment, folks. I mean, it's obvious that they foresaw something that, hey, we need our people to have the rights to bear arms, okay? And any time anybody tries to put any type of a limit on it, and I don't care what it is, I think that it's a slippery slope, down a path of withering away the amendment altogether. And I think that's just ridiculous. You outlaw guns, the only people that are going to have the guns are the outlaws, folks. I know these liberal, long-haired, bedwetting hippies like to tell you that, they'll take away your guns and it's going to be a utopia. It's not going to be a utopia, folks. On the contrary, the black market for guns will go sky high. You're going to have the average American family going to be lured into the possibility of gun running in such a society. I mean, I don't even want to get into the implications of those liberals wanting to assert their agenda of taking our rights away, especially when it comes to the rights to bear arms. And like I stated previous, we had a debate about this subject matter last evening, and we had a Republican and we had a liberal, and they were both basically setting a limit of some sort. They actually believe that there should be a limit. There should be limits pertain to the Second Amendment, and I want to hear what everybody else has to say out there. I take both political perspectives, but the bottom line is, folks, our forefathers thought it was a important enough issue to make it the Second Amendment of our Constitution. So I want to see if you have a limit, folks, if you have any kind of a limit on the Second Amendment of the Constitution, or if you have any kind of opinion on it, if you think guns should be banned altogether, which I think is absolute lunacy. But if you think whatever you think, I urge you to give me a call right now, 646-652-4869. That's the thing we're talking about this evening. I mean, I was completely shocked. At this point, I was completely shocked last night when I was having a debate with a liberal and a conservative, or a Republican, and they were both telling me that there should be some sort of a limit. A limit! I said, okay, well, what are you talking about limit? Are you talking about how many guns a man can buy? A law-abiding citizen, a person, I shouldn't say a man, a woman has the right to buy a firearm. I mean, is there a limit? Can I not have more than one gun? And then they started questioning me. Well, what about 20 guns? And I said, well, what about 20 guns? If a person's a law-abiding citizen that has never committed any type of a crime, that has no past criminal record of any type of violent criminal record, any kind of criminal record whatsoever, I don't see where one has the right to make some sort of a limit on how much one can consume when it comes to practicing their Second Amendment right. I just don't understand this, folks. I mean, how are liberals being able to penetrate the average, everyday American psyche into believing that owning and possessing a firearm, practicing your Second Amendment right, is somewhat of a sin or something? They're making it taboo. I mean, look, let me break it down to you. I'm in Texas, okay? And in Texas, we have a right. We have to go get a permit, of course, and take a class or two, but we have the right to carry a firearm out in the open as long as it's concealed. We have a concealed handgun law, folks. That means I can always leave the house strapped. That's a little bit of hip-hop lingo. We were talking a little bit about hip-hop last night, but that's besides the point. The point is that we have the right to do that, folks. And I think we need to have more people having the right to do that. Crime will go down, first of all. Secondly, we won't have any of these, ridiculous, and it's unfortunate. These unfortunate, isolated incidences
where you've got somebody who comes off some sort of medication, and, you know, I guess they're upset, or, you know, something's wrong with, they got a chemical imbalance, whatever it is. They have access to a firearm, and they go in and they kill innocent people. But I think if there had been more people with guns in their possession, concealed, while they were practicing their constitutionally protected right, I think that there would have been a little bit less bloodshed out there, folks. I don't see a limit, folks. I don't see a limit. Is there something wrong? You know, every time I make a suggestion, especially in Texas, and remember, we have the concealed handgun law, folks. Every time I even assert the notion that I have a firearm or I possess a firearm, I own a firearm, you know, it seems to me like everybody just looks at me like I just farted on their best suit or something. I mean, it's like, oh, my God, you got a firearm? I mean, well, what in the blue hell's going on with this crap? I mean, are you kidding me? This is what America's turning into, and this is what I'm talking about. I'm very concerned about America, folks. This is why I keep coming up on here. This is why I come up on here and scream my damn head off, because I don't understand why America won't talk a little bit more about American problems, American issues, American views. And this is definitely one of them. And I don't think that people should have any kind of a limit when it comes to practicing their Second Amendment right. And anybody who tries to put any kind of amendment to that or any type of limit to that is only making a slippery slope to wither away the amendment itself. And that's all there is to it. I couldn't believe when I heard a Republican trying to make a limit. Do you think there's a limit, folks? I mean, honestly, are you a Republican, or are you saying, well, you know what? I don't think people should have more than 10 guns. I just don't think so. And if you think so, give me a call and tell me why. Let's provide some substance on the table here. 646-652-4869. I want to see how deep this mentality has penetrated the American psyche, where it's just completely obnoxious to have or possess or own a firearm. I mean, this is a constitutionally protected right, folks. Wake up! Take your heads out of your clogged up colon holes. Don't set boundaries. Don't try to wither away our rights. These were unalienable rights that were given to us by our forefathers. And they found it important enough to make the right to bear arms not the Fourth or the Eighth or any other amendment, the Second Amendment. And I just can't believe that I even have Republicans sitting over here talking about, let's just set a limit on how many guns someone can possess. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I mean, am I off my rocker, folks? I mean, am I off my rocker here? Am I out of tune with society? Am I misinterpreting the Constitution here? Please, I beg you, if you think I'm off my rocker, you know, get on the phone, sound off like you got a pair. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. But the bottom line is that I believe in the Constitution, and I don't believe that there should be a limit. Anyway, we're going to take a call here. 419, you're on the air.
Thanks for taking my call, Ghost. This is Heather.
How you doing, Heather?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Not bad.
Good. And it's really ironic that you're having this show today because, you know, over the past probably, I would say 6 months, I have been reading so much, you know, because I'll be the first to admit that over the past maybe 10 years, I've been pretty much asleep. I haven't been paying attention to current events. So I think this election really opened my eyes, and I need to start paying attention again because I didn't pay attention over the past 10 years. When I was a kid, I would read the news. I mean, I was a dorky kid. I will admit it. I mean, I used to love to read the news, and then I just let that slack off, and now I'm reading it again, and it's really scary, the things that I'm reading. Because I read earlier today, just about an hour ago, how Montana is going to the Supreme Court to defend their Second Amendment right.
Oh, yeah, believe me, and this is why I'm talking about this today. We were talking about it vaguely last evening, but today, I mean, you know, this is very important to us, folks, and, you know, this was a right, I mean, an amendment to the Constitution that was accorded to us by the forefathers here, and now we're going to the Supreme Court. Is this case actually going to be heard by the Supreme Court?
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be heard in June. It's called, the name of the case, I'm looking it up now, and I'm going to post the link in the chat room as soon as I find it, but I have it written down. It's called D.C. versus Heller, and there's a lot of officials within Montana. There's a lot of individuals within Montana, people who feel that they have the right to have as many guns as they want to, are going to the Supreme Court. I believe it's in June or July. I have to look up the date, but I'll post the link in the chat room so anyone can read it.
You know, I would really appreciate that, Heather, because that's very scary, and it is rather a tad bit of irony that I'm sitting here talking about how everybody should have the right to bear arms and not have a limit to it, and lo and behold, we have a case being heard by the Supreme Court that they're going to somehow debate whether or not we should have a limit to how many guns we can possess while practicing our constitutionally protected Second Amendment right.
Absolutely. Because I'm reading like a caption here. It says the United States Supreme Court has agreed to hear the case of D.C. versus Heller, the first case in 70 years, which the court will squarely address the meaning of the Second Amendment. The core question is whether the Second Amendment secures an individual right to keep and bear arms, or if it merely protects a right of the states to arm their National Guards, known as the collective rights theory.
Oh, my God. Are you kidding? Is this real?
This is real.
I mean, let me get this straight here. I didn't mean to cut you off, but are you meaning to tell me that somebody is going to actually debate whether or not the Second Amendment pertains to the average everyday American, or that's a misinterpretation meant for the National Guard? Is this what this document's saying?
Absolutely. This is an interpretation from... I'm guessing this is the District of Columbia. Just keep in mind, I only found this like an hour ago, so I'm not really as prepared as I should be. But this is from the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. It's saying that the right to bear arms is, in terms of everyone, is pretty much restricted to the National Guard. And it says here that many entities will submit amicus briefs, but Montana has not been able to submit an amicus brief concerning the state's contract argument because of the time and the money. The purpose of this argument is that if the court should hold the Second Amendment to be a collective right, that position will open a can of worms concerning states and concerning contracts. So it's getting really scary. I think people need to really wake up. I know that there's some people here in your chat room. I'm not going to name names. I don't care if they don't like me, and that's fine. But it's like there's so many things going on that people don't know. And then when people finally wake up and they snap out of it, they're going to be all caught off guard. It's like it's going to be really ugly here.
Oh, you know what? You know, this is definitely some breaking news here. You know, I'm not one for breaking news. I'm just here for conservative commentary. But thank you very much, Heather. And let me tell you, it makes me sick to know that the Supreme Court is actually going to hear a case on whether or not the Second Amendment pertains to actual American citizens or the National Guard. The Second Amendment? Are you kidding me? I mean, oh my God, I think I'm about to be ill here. You know, I mean,
it's the links in your chat room. You may want to just click on it and save it in your favorites. You know, before it gets lost. I don't know if it is. You know how it can go up and eventually be thrown out. So you may want to just go ahead and add it to your favorites now, just in case that happens.
Absolutely, and it should concern everybody who is concerned with our amendments here to the Constitution. This is the Second Amendment, and we're going to have a case heard by the Supreme Court on whether or not the Second Amendment interprets whether or not the United States citizens should arm themselves or the National Guard should arm themselves. I mean, I can't believe that this is happening in America.
Exactly. It's unbelievable. I think that it's such, you can tell that there's like contention bubbling under the surface. and it's contention because everybody's being restricted. I mean, to the point where we all feel like we have to go by the same drummer, and that's not fitting into our instincts as human beings. I mean, we can all cohesively live together and not have any problems if everyone had the right to live the way that they want to. Trust me, I don't agree with a lot of lifestyles out there, but they have the right to do what they want to. I mean, I personally don't have a gun, but if you want to have 10 guns and you're not going out shooting people that aren't being aggressive to you, then why can't you have those guns?
Especially when it was accorded to us by our forefathers, and they thought it was important enough. Remember, this is a Second Amendment. This is right after the First Amendment. I mean, this is a very important amendment. They thought it was an important idea to instill into future generations that those who want to participate in the right to bear arms do so. And the Second Amendment, how I interpret it, is, the citizens. It doesn't say anything about the National Guard in there. Whoever is trying to misinterpret the Constitution to try to restrict us as far as American citizens from the right to bear arms is just absolute authoritarian communism.
Absolutely. And I mean, because I have nothing. I mean, that's just not even in my nature. I mean, I know that there's a lot of contention on Blog Talk Radio as to what's funny, what's not funny, but what's important. I have nothing against Jen. I have nothing against the guy who hosted the show last night who said that I'm wrong, and but he refused to ban me from his show, but he says I'm just wrong outright. I mean, that's fine, but rights are being taken away. Rights that have been instilled in the Constitution are being taken away, and that's really not to be taken lightly, because when one person's right is taken away, then it's only a matter of time before mine is taken away.
Well, let me tell you something. This is very, very concerning to me that the Supreme Court is going to hear such a case on whether or not the Second Amendment pertains to United States citizens. That's just sick.
Yes, and what gives the Supreme Court the right to determine and interpret the Constitution? I mean, it's just like, it's really, like, I hate to use this cliche, but it really is a slippery slope. Because it is going to be like, well, there is no real free speech if it's used in X, Y, and Z context. I mean, it's just gonna trickle down, and I actually feel a little nauseous, because it's like, I feel like it's only the beginning, and I hope people realize that. I mean, I hope I'm making sense. I mean,
it's starting to come a little bit more up to flourish, if you will, now that we're seeing such nonsense, like whether or not the Second Amendment pertains to the United States citizens. I mean, that's just disgusting to me that, the Supreme Court would hear such a goddamn case, man. I mean, you just don't understand how upset I am right now. I mean, I could legitimately break something, throw something around my damn room here, and I don't understand why there's not more people talking about issues like this and talking about issues that pertain to America. And this is definitely something that pertains to America, and I hope folks that are listening and individuals that have the influence to amplify such information, like the fact that our Second Amendment is being debated or going to be debated at the Supreme Court, and whether or not it pertains to the United States citizens or the damn Guard, it's just sickening to me.
It's like another thing that, I mean, I heard your statement earlier. I'm not sure who you're referencing that to, where it's, a Republican says that we need to restrict the amount of guns that we need to have. And I find that strange coming from a Republican, because this is not saying, this is just a blanket statement, but I know there's exceptions to the rule. But Republicans, probably about 70% are Christian. Even Jesus said that if you don't have a sword, or in this day, a gun, you need to sell your coat and get you a gun. So you need to protect your family.
I agree. Let me tell you something. I just don't understand the liberal mentality on thinking that if somehow you just round up all the guns, that somehow it's going to be some utopia. It's just ridiculous. I mean, that just creates a higher of a black market for guns. I mean, it raises the price of guns. Remember, I'm a free market thinking person. I understand what happens. You take away all the legal guns, all the illegal guns on the street up the price about maybe 100 times. Mm-hmm. And you're going to make a whole bunch of millionaires and possibly billionaires on illegal gun running. And that's what I'm saying. And the only people that would have guns are the bad guys. And what the cops are going to be all around to protect us? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. The bottom line is we need to protect ourselves, and we need to practice in our constitutionally protected Second Amendment right. And even if you got yourself a little 22 pea shooter, I suggest to go out and get one, because just in case an intruder comes into your home, or something traumatic happens, like and God forbid something like 9/11 happens, and things go. You just never know.
Absolutely.
And you need to protect yourself, in my view, and that's all I'm suggesting, folks.
Because I think that in this issue, it's really strange that this has come out now, as we are on pretty much the precipice of the NAFTA superhighway. And I was reading earlier, like once I got off work, I started reading, because I'm like, I want to know. The NAFTA superhighway is pretty much in its last meeting coming up, I think it's later this month, and that this is something that the people won't even have a chance to vote on.
Believe me, hey, we're raising hell down here in Texas trying to stop it. It's better known as down here the I-35 corridor. Mm-hmm. The I-35 corridor is this big toll road that's I-35 that is going to go from South America, I believe, all the way through Texas up into Canada, and it's what's going to string along together supposedly a better strain of commerce on a, I guess, hemispheric scale, I believe. To be honest with you, if you want to see my particular persuasion on this issue, it would have to be that they're trying to gear us up to merge as an economic entity, and I think that you take that into consideration. And for folks that aren't in Texas, they don't know about what's going on down here. What's going on down here is that we are having a highway built. It's called I-35. It's always been here. But it's going to be a super type of a highway that's going to connect all the roads in and out of the United States and onward into Canada. And it's going to be a toll-based road, so everybody who has to travel through I-35 is going to have to pay a toll fee. What we found out here in Texas is that this toll fee is actually not going to go to our state government, as the Texas state government, nor is it going to go to the federal government. It's actually going to go to a private industry that is owned by the socialist government of Spain. So technically what's happening down here is we're having TxDOT, which is our little supposed shindig bureaucracy of a state Department of Transportation, and what they're doing is building this highway for these people. And what's ended up going to happen is all the tolls that are going to be generated through the I-35 corridor, so to speak, are going to be collected by the socialist company that is owned by the Spaniards. And this is just something that is really hitting home out here in Texas. And the only reason I know so much about this is because I am out here with the folks, some of the folks that are getting their land taken away thanks to the new eminent domain laws. We now have eminent domain laws, and if the government feels that your land is in the way of economic prosperity, whatever that means, they could take away your land from you, no questions asked, and that's all there is to it. And that's exactly what's happening to a lot of people that are basically getting their land taken away from over here along the I-35 corridor, and it's a bad situation out here, believe me. I know all about this. This is why I'm so upset. This is why I'm starting to realize that we have a liberal agenda here, and the liberal agenda is not only to take away our rights by instilling more bureaucracy and government in our faces, but
in my view, I think that they're trying to kind of make American sovereignty pretty much null and void. When you look at the lackadaisical approach on the borders, you take a look at the lackadaisical approach on the fact that we need to get 20 million illegal immigrants that are devaluing the cost of labor out of here. You take all that fact in consideration, it looks pretty nefarious to me. I've never been a conspiracy theorist.
Either.
You know, I never have, but you take all the facts here, and especially down here in Texas, when you're seeing it, I'm seeing it firsthand, the influx of all these illegal immigrants. I mean, these people are all over the place. Now, I'm sorry that, you know, they're just trying to look for a better way of life, but they're in here illegally, and they're ruining the American way of life. And you take all this, you know, the bottom line is you take all these factors together, and there is some nefarious activity going on. And I think that people need to wake up and understand their system, both at a local level, at a state level, at a federal level. They need to start writing their Congress people, their state representatives, even their city council people, whoever their leaders are. They need to be very intense about who they are, what their motivations are, where they were educated, what their views on certain issues are, because right now, in my opinion, I think that we're being sold out. And I'm not trying to be some conspiracy theorist nut job. I was a lifelong Republican. I voted all my life the Republican Party, but now I've come to see a transition here. Now, I mean, it's no longer about the American way, the Constitution, truth, justice, the American way, Superman said. Well, let me tell you something. I don't think it's no longer about the American way. It's about the world way.
Absolutely. And I want to take one more. I just make one more statement because I know that. I mean, I'm not a conspiracy person. I mean, I guess that's not me by nature, because I typically like to take people at their word. But there's been too many events, especially over the past 10 years, as you look back in history, that something's just not right. I mean, there's really something that's just not right. I mean, we've had other countries in this world asking us to come over and bring democracy. Why have we made such an effort to do so for Iraq when there have been countries requesting specifically for America to come over? And one of those countries is Iran. A lot of people don't know that, because Iran, there were people like, I guess, subgroups or subcultures who actually did request that we come in and bring democracy. But there have also been countries in China or in Asia, the continent of Asia, who have asked us to come over, help us establish democracy. Why did we go to Iraq? My conspiracy theory is because OPEC has been discussing in private to move oil to the euro for over 10 years almost, beginning back in 1999. And that's why we're over there, because now it's all becoming like, it's all trickling down. It's all becoming a snowball, because now we have this highway that's going to cost billions of dollars, going to displace thousands of people, but we're using it under this guise that we are, I don't know, like we're a two-party nation, when we're really not, because it seems like both parties are all in it for the same ends. Because I know that Obama, he's not gun-shy either. So he's pretty much pro-war as well. I mean, I'm not anti-war. I consider myself a very big hawk, but something's just not right. And I feel it in my spirit that something is not right in this country. And I look at not to go back and seem like I'm all over the place, but I go back to today. The stocks are up in America, but that's behind a statement from the Fed saying that the economy is weak, and to expect layoffs and further, I guess, degradation. With that kind of forecast, why are the stocks up? I mean, some are higher today. There is no justification for that to me. So something behind the scenes is up, and I really think in the next couple of weeks, and especially as this hearing comes up for the gun issue in the Supreme Court, potentially all hell could break loose in this country. I hope that I'm wrong, because I really hope that I'm wrong.
Well, it's getting very scary, and, you know, I'm really glad you brought that issue up. I had no idea. You know, I probably would if I would have done a little bit more digging on the subject matter, but, I mean, hot off the wire, the Supreme Court is going to hear actual hearings on whether or not the Second Amendment, the forefathers given Second Amendment, whether or not it pertained to us as American citizens, or the forefathers interpreted it specifically for the National Guard. That's right, folks. We're interpreting the new interpretation of the Constitution. No longer is the Second Amendment a right, an inalienable right given to the United States citizens. No, you've got the Supreme Court of the United States that's going to actually debate amongst themselves whether or not the Second Amendment pertains to United States citizens or the National Guard. This is sick, folks.
Unbelievable.
This is sick.
I just want to say thanks for the time, Ghost, and I just want to encourage people, because I'm sure you probably have a lot of people who, I mean, they come into the show, but they also listen to it in the archive. I would just encourage people to watch 3 things. Like, the 3 things that we need to watch are the economy, the stock prices. I consider myself a geek. The stock prices should not be higher. We should be even, but we should not be higher, because consumer confidence is way too low. So please watch the stock market. Watch this NAFTA situation. And this thing with the Supreme Court, I'm reading stories online. I will get you those links while I listen to the rest of the show. People are talking about if Montana loses this, that they're going to begin the process to secede from the Union. That would be, I mean, people need to understand the type of people that live in Montana. I'm not saying anything against them, but they are they are very hardcore. They are not to be played with. And if this does not go their way and they have the right to bear those arms, it's going to be a mess, because they're already talking about seceding from the Union, which is their right to do if one of their constitutional rights is being infringed upon, which it is in this case. And I just ask people to watch the economy, the situation in Montana, and the situation with the NAFTA superhighway, because people are losing their land that has been in people's families for years.
And I'm seeing it firsthand, Heather. I know many of the families that are getting their land taken away from them right here in Texas by the government based on this ridiculous I-35 corridor, or what is now known as the NAFTA superhighway. It's pretty sad, Heather, what's going on here in America, and we're trying to fight out here in Texas. But what's unfortunate is, we're at the front lines as far as the illegals coming in here and influxing us, and that's why I think that it's rather precarious that you have a immigration problem. 20 million illegal immigrants here, and I think that they're trying to destabilize American sovereignty. Because that's why not too many people are having a big problem about it. We're trying to get people involved as far as to stop this damn highway from being built and using our tax-paying dollars and against toll roads and that sort of thing. But there's just not enough people getting involved because not enough people care. They'd rather see, what animal Paris Hilton has on her damn lap, for Christ's sake. And they could care less about what's going on around them and understanding that, American sovereignty is being compromised. And at the same time, it seems to me more and more as we delude ourselves with 20, 25, 30 million illegals, who knows when the limit is. And by the time we've anesthetized ourselves with all these trade deals, I think that it'll be pretty much, in the bag for us to merge and no longer be the United States of America, but the North American Union.
Absolutely. Thanks for your time, Ghost. I'm a huge fan of you on BTR.
Thank you, Heather.
It's my favorite show. Thanks for the time.
I appreciate you always, and we appreciate the story that you just dropped on us here. It's straight up some, jaw-dropping news, I'll tell you that.
Oh, no problem. Have a good night, everybody.
All right. Thank you very much, Heather. It's definitely some scary news out here, folks. I mean, hot off the wire, there's going to be a Supreme Court case heard on whether or not the United States constitutionally protected right of the Second Amendment
pertains to the United States citizens or the National Guard. I mean, I think it's just a bit of irony because, I was talking about the Second Amendment on whether or not there should be any type of limits, which I don't think there should. And anybody who tries to set limits on the Second Amendment is only going down a slippery slope to wither away the constitutional amendment that was accorded to us by our forefathers. Now, you see, folks, this is some scary times in American history. We are living history. You know this, folks. And this is what I'm saying. This is why I dropped the Republican out of my name, folks, because instead of what Republicans used to stand for, which was less government regulation, less government bureaucracy, less taxes, less government in our faces. Remember that? Remember when the Republican Party was about that? Well, they're not about that anymore, folks. As a matter of fact, they want to embrace all this garbage that's being shoved down our throats. The bottom line is, folks, in my view, I think that these presidential candidates, if they want the conservatives to take wins, like I am, I'm a true conservative, and they want the old-school Republicans to take win with what they're buying, I think they need to start talking about things that pertain to the American person. And what is it that pertains to the American person? Well, I'll tell you what. It's economy. You notice how most of these candidates, all they're talking about is handouts. They're going to give you subsidies. They're going to give you tax money. They're going to give you this. They're going to give you that. We don't want you to give us crap, all right? All we expect you to do, government, is to provide an economic landscape out here that perpetuates jobs, that perpetuates innovation, productivity. We need production, folks. And on the contrary, we've got a government that's sending the means of production outside of the United States to such governments like China, damn communist China, and Mexico, and other third world nations. We don't produce anything out here in America anymore, folks. And that's what people need to start talking about. But they're not going to talk about it in the public education system. And we're going to go ahead and segue into that. We just got finished talking about the Second Amendment, and let me tell you, folks, if you haven't heard about it yet, I'm going to say it one more time, and I urge everyone out there to do their research and figure out what in the blue hell is happening here to the American Constitution. I urge you to read up on this case on the Second Amendment that is going to be heard by the Supreme Court. You need to read this. This is in the state of Montana. It's going to be heard by the Supreme Court on whether or not the Second Amendment of the Constitution is interpreted as the American citizens' right to bear arms, or did the forefathers mean the National Guard bearing arms and not the United States citizens? This is ridiculous, folks, and I urge you to go out there, do some research on this subject matter, and amplify this for whoever listens and whoever cares about the Constitution. But we're going to segue into the public education system, folks, and I know that many people who listen to me, whether it's live or in the archive, they know that I hate the public education system. I hate it. I hate the public education system because it is a communist system, folks. It's communism. A government-run bureaucracy. Why do you think none of the children that are being produced out of the public education system know their asses from their elbow? Why do you think that? Because they want it that way. You notice how public education retards creativity, retards critical thinking? Why do you think nobody's talking about any of the issues that I'm talking about, at least? How come you don't think that most of these people are talking about issues that pertain to America, to real Americans? You know who you are if you're a real American. I'm talking about somebody who has ancestry, who built this country, who spilt blood for this country, who cares about this country, who would die for this country, who appreciates the rights accorded by the forefathers. That's who I'm talking about, Americans. Let's talk about issues that pertain to Americans, but nobody's talking about it, and nobody cares about it, because the public education system that you fund, that I fund, isn't
producing a product that cares about these things. No. You know what they care about? I'll tell you what they care about. They care about their little fruity-ass little TV programs. Yeah, that's right. They care about their little music icons. They care about their little gizmos and technological gadgets. They care about the movies. They care about their iPods. And why is that? Why is there not a more of an abundant number of youth that has any kind of intellectual curiosity? Well, I'll tell you why. Public education, folks. These ridiculous teachers, these ridiculous principals, these ridiculous school board members, they're all a bunch of bureaucrats. They could care less if your kid turns out to be a burger flipper, a millionaire, or a damn bum on the street in a puddle of their own blood and piss with a cheap bottle of hooch. They don't care. And this is why it needs to be scrapped, ladies and gentlemen. In my view, public education needs to be scrapped. But unfortunately, you've got this liberal machine. All right? I mean, because let me tell you, the public education system has been infected by nothing but a bunch of liberals and feminists. I mean, that's who's in the schools right now. Why do you think everybody who comes out of school is so politically correct? Well, because they've taken out everything that has anything to do with physical activity or calling somebody a name, calling somebody a loser. They don't have winners and losers to contest in school anymore. No, they have honorary mentions now. Yeah, that's right. They don't even play tag anymore in school. You know that? They don't even play dodgeball. They don't play none of this garbage. You want to know why? Because the liberals and feminists have infected this government bureaucracy that is public education, and all it's producing, folks, all it's producing is a bunch of absent-minded, neurotic idiots. Why do you think none of these kids out here could care less about picking up a book and actually reading something? How come you don't have a little bit more of an abundant number of people or of teenagers, of youth, actually having any type of intellectual curiosity, for Christ's sake? You want to know why? Because the public education system wants it that way. It's obvious they want it that way. There is no incentive on whether or not your kid gets an education, folks. This is why we need to scrap the system altogether. We need to scrap the system. We need to privatize education, folks. That's right. I think that would help the American economy at this point, folks. Absolutely. It would spawn a whole new sector for entrepreneurship, innovation. I guarantee you, if we privatize education, there would be a financial incentive at any school you put your kid into that child is going to get an education, a true education, one that's going to perpetuate them into this great life, this great future that we're stumbling ourselves into. I believe that. I honestly believe that anybody can open up a school once we privatize education and rid the bureaucrats of their government teat-sucking. If we privatize education, anybody can open up a school. If some long-haired liberal bedwetting society wants to open up a school for more liberal, long-haired, bedwetting, whale-saving tree huggers, well, they can do that. Anybody who wants to open up a school can do it. If a whole bunch of mothers want to pool their money together and perpetuate a better nurturing style type elementary school, whatever the case might be, you can do it. And you'll be able to perpetuate more intellectual thought, critical thinking. I guarantee it, folks. These bureaucrats could care less. They could care less, folks. And this is why nobody's talking about the issues that really affect America. I mean, just like I stated, and it was said earlier, hot off the wire, the Supreme Court is going to hear a case on whether or not the Second Amendment is interpreted for American citizens or the National Guard. Can you believe this? The United States Supreme Court is going to hear a case on whether or not The Second Amendment was meant for us, the United States citizens, or the National Guard? Are you kidding me? What kind of America is this, folks? I mean, oh my gosh, I can't believe that we're living in this new communist, quasi-socialist America. All these candidates that are up for president right now, all they're talking about is handouts. This is socialism, folks, and if you look at the empirical evidence, you will know that socialism is a failed social experiment, folks. It doesn't work. It's malarkey. It's moot. It's nada. Let's not go down that slippery slope. Let's demand something from our leaders that we supposedly vote into this ridiculous bureaucracy of ours. Let's start writing them. Let's start getting a little bit more active. But you see, the public education system doesn't teach that their children can do that. It doesn't teach that they need to keep track of the bureaucracy that affects their lives. It doesn't say anything about that. No. That's why these kids are more worried about their damn iPods, their PlayStation 8s and 12s, and the ridiculous gizmos, and it's just ridiculous, folks. Video games. This is what the preoccupied teenage mind and what ends up being the adult mind turns into. That's why there's no critical thought. That's why there's no creativity. That's why there's no stimulating conversation. Why do you think that most of the people under the age of 30 have no personality nowadays? Have you noticed that? Have you talked to anybody under the age of 30? They have no damn personality. I mean, you would have more fun listening to a moron talking about insurance at a damn insurance convention than listening to some of these jag-offs that are under the age of 30 that have no personality, because the public education system that they came out of is an absolute buffoonery farm. It's a damn buffoonery farm, folks. I'm sorry, folks. I speak with passion, but the only reason is, folks, is because I believe in America. I love America. I love the American Constitution. I don't know about you, but I love the American Constitution. It is one of the most brilliant documents ever written on the face of the universe. Do you understand this, folks? Nobody, and you can read throughout the history of mankind, no other document accorded man the unalienable rights that were given to us on that great document. And for all you people that take it for granted, for all you people that don't know what I'm talking about, you need to take your heads out of your asses and start reading a little bit. Pick up a damn book, put the fork down, okay? Put the freaking fork down for about 5 minutes. Pick up a book and start reading something. It's ridiculous, folks. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now. We're talking about a whole bunch of variety of different subject matters that have something to do with American people. Something that affects American people, all of us, folks. And what affects us all? The economy. I mean, I'm going to continue saying this. I know I sound like a damn broken record, but the bottom line is the American dollar is turning into a piece of paper. That's what it's turning into, a damn piece of paper. I mean, the American dollar is being so devalued out here, folks, that you've got high-end retail stores in New York City right now that won't accept a Benjamin Franklin, folks. That's right. You can go in there with a fistful of Benjamins in a New York high-end retail store right now, and they will turn you away because they don't accept American money anymore, folks. And why don't they accept American money? Because, well, the American money is being so devalued at this point, the only thing they're accepting is this ridiculous euro dollar. That's right. And I don't understand why nobody else is talking about these subject matters. These are very serious clues to impending doom, to impending economic disaster. And, of course, none of these ridiculous pieces of crap, power-hungry autocrat, garbage candidates for president are talking about any of these subject matters that are going to affect each and every one of our lives. None of them are saying anything. You know that? None of them are saying a damn thing. I don't understand why they don't talk a little bit more about the economy. You got John Turncoat McCain out here touting about he's a maverick, how he wants to extend the war, which I'm not against, folks. But this is a blatant liberal that wants to put government in our faces, government in our lives. This is exactly what he wants to do. And yet he wants to go out and be some sort of a maverick out here, go out, extend the war into Pakistan, Iran, Syria, all these other countries, while at the same time he is doing all this in the name of democracy, to implement democracy, while at the same time here in America, John Turncoat McCain is going to do what he can to wipe his ass with the Constitution and take away democracy right here in America. That's what I don't get, folks. Democracy is being taken away right here from us in America. And nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about any of these issues, the devaluing of the American dollar, the fact that you can go into New York high-end retail shops right now and they won't accept your American money. They'll only accept euro dollars. I mean, you know, how come nobody else is talking about this? How come nobody else is steaming mad as I am? I mean, take your heads out of your ass, please. Jeez, man. I mean, put the fork down for 5 minutes. Stop looking at the boob tube, okay? I mean, read a book. I mean, you have, if you were within the sound of my voice, you have an internet connection. The internet is one of the most invaluable tools that has been given to us as humankind. And what do people do with the internet? They sit there and watch pornography and go into voice chat communities to become a bunch of sexual deviants. That's what people are utilizing it for. You need to read, damn it. You need to stop looking at that damn pornography and start reading. Do a little bit of damn research, you piece of crap. I mean, how hard is it to read? You're sitting on your ass. You could continue shoving food down your gullet like a damn garbage disposal, but read a book or something. I mean, I want to inspire enlightenment, for Christ's sake. I'm sick and tired of going down the street and talking to a bunch of Nimrods out here that don't know their asses from their elbow. Aren't you tired of that, folks? Aren't you tired of just running around nothing but a bunch of dumb-ass, ignorant people? I don't mean to generalize people that way, folks. I know that many people have their own minds, have their own conscience, understand that, hey, I'm a human being, and I understand how to critically think, how to think on my toes, how to think critically. I understand that there's you folks out there, folks, but for the most part, the majority are nothing but a bunch of fat jelly asses out here depositing food down their gullet like a damn garbage disposal, worried about what damn animal Paris Hilton is going to have bouncing around on her lap or some ridiculous garbage like that. We need to snap out of it, folks. You need to pick up a damn book, and if you have an internet connection, why don't you read a little bit, damn it? Do a couple of Google searches. Do something. It's not that hard, man. It's not that damn hard. I just don't understand why nobody else does it. Can somebody please give me a call and tell me why in the blue hell nobody else is out here having any kind of intellectual curiosity? Can somebody tell me why? I understand that the public education system is a bunch of buffooneries, believe me, and I understand it's making our whole population stupid. I know. I hate the teachers. I hate the bureaucrats. I hate anybody who works for public education. You're a part of the problem. You're at the front lines of dumbing down America, and I hate you all. Okay? You get no respect from me. Teachers, you get no respect from me. Principals, you people are a piece of crap. You need to look at yourself in the mirror, okay? If you're a principal or if you're a teacher and you work in the public education system, I want you to look at yourself in the mirror, okay? Look at yourself right between your little beady eyes right there, and I want you to spit. I want you to spit on that mirror, and that's me to you, you pieces of crap, because you are at the front lines of dumbing down America, and it's your fault, and you should be ashamed of yourself. All of you. Anyway, folks, give me a call right now, 646-652-4869. Give me a call right now, folks. We're talking about everything and everything that pertains to America. Things that are going to concern American people, not this trivial garbage. All right? We need to go beyond that trivial garbage. All right? We need to go beyond that. We need to start talking about issues that pertain to America. We need to start talking about American sovereignty. We need to start talking about the American Constitution. We need to start talking about why the Supreme Court is hearing a case out of Montana right now debating on whether or not the Second Amendment of the Constitution is meant for United States citizens, or was the Second Amendment made specifically and only for the National Guard? Well, that's right, folks. They're trying to take our rights away from us, and I don't understand why nobody is hopping mad about it, but when you look at the public education system, when you look at all the garbage around you, and you take a good whiff of it, and it smells like dirty, rotten butt crack, you start realizing, folks, that we need to do something. We need to do something at a grassroots level. That's why I'm on here, folks. If you hear me and you agree with me with something, if you disagree, whatever, you need to talk about it. You need to talk about it with your friends. You need to talk about it with your family. You understand? If I say something that pisses you off, well, talk about it, you piece of crap. Don't just sit there and play with your schlong head and think that everything's okay. Why don't you go out there and talk about it? That's all there is to it. Talk about it. It's very sad, folks. It's very sad. And, you know, I've got people in here saying that they hear my passion, but the inappropriate wording, well, let me tell you something. We need to get beyond that at this point. We're at dire straits, okay? We're seeing a transition from our United States Constitution into something else that's a quasi-communist socialist government, folks. That's what we're seeing out here. I mean, we have the devaluing of the American dollar. We've got high-end retail stores in America right now in New York City that won't accept American money. And nobody is talking about this garbage. Do you understand that? And at the same time, we've got the means of production, all the manufacturing, all the textile, anything that's produced. All the means of production has been shipped out, folks. It's been shipped out to that damn communist China, to Mexico, and other third world nations that have taken away your jobs, folks. It's taken away your income, food out of your plates, money out of your pocket. And then what are you left to do? What are you left to do after, corporate America shipped your job away, thanks to these imbalanced trade deals signed by these power-hungry autocrats we send to Washington? What are you left to do? Well, you've got to compete with the jobs that are out here in America, and there's not many of them, folks. There's not many of them. The only thing the United States produces is entertainment and cheeseburgers. But you are left to sit here and compete for jobs amidst 20 million illegal immigrants, okay? 20 million illegal immigrants that are in this country illegally, that are working for 25 cents on the dollar. You got to sit here and compete with that crap. That's what they want you to do, and nobody's talking about it, folks. Everybody's putting their head up their colon pipe, seeing how much it would echo if they scream up there, but nobody's going to listen to you up there, folks. Nobody's going to listen to you up there. So take your head out of your ass and start understanding, folks, that we need to start talking about issues that pertain to America, that pertain to the American Constitution, that pertains to the American way of life. We need to perpetuate jobs. We don't need candidates that are going to talk about handouts. Do you understand that? We need candidates that are going to talk about how they're going to create jobs out here in America. And nobody is talking about it. And let me tell you something, folks. I'm hopping mad here. I mean, I want to break something. I want to throw something. I want to break something. I want to break my hand into the damn wall. I'm so upset, folks. I'm so upset because I just don't understand why nobody is talking about this America that we're losing, folks. And we're losing it. We're losing it, folks. Anyway, if you have any opinions on the subject matters, give us a call right now. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. We want to hear from you. We want to hear what's important to you. We want to hear what's going to get you off of the couch and putting the remote control down, getting yourself up out of the chair, going to go vote. Me, personally, the presidential elections are pretty much shot, folks. I'm not voting. I'm not going to contribute to the destruction of this country. All the candidates out here, and it doesn't matter who you vote for, whether it's John McCain, whether it's Barack Hussein Obama, whether it's Hillary Rodham Clinton, it really doesn't matter who you vote for, folks. It's the same crap, different plate. And all we're going to get is more handouts, subsidies. We're going to get more government in our faces, more government regulation. The Republican Party no longer stands for less government and less taxes, folks. It doesn't stand for that anymore. All it stands for, you know what, to be honest with you, I don't know what in the blue hell it stands for, but it sure as heck doesn't stand for the old school principles of the conservative route and the low taxes, less government ideology that brought Republicans together. I just don't understand it. And I want to hear from you folks. I mean, am I falling off my rocker here? I mean, is that what I'm doing? Am I falling off my rocker? Give me a call, 646-652-4869. We're talking about random thoughts here, folks. And I know we've been saying this the whole show, but I think it deserves to be amplified about 1,000,000 times. Right now, out of Montana, the Supreme Court is going to be hearing a case on whether or not the Second Amendment, and for all you folks that are naive of the Constitution, the Second Amendment is the right to bear arms that gives you the right to own a firearm, folks, okay? And the bottom line is that you've got the Supreme Court that is going to hear a case on whether or not the Second Amendment pertains to the United States citizens, or did it mean the right to bear arms specifically and only to the National Guard? That's right, folks. The Supreme Court is going to debate on whether or not it's our constitutional right to carry and own and possess a firearm, folks. Can you believe this garbage? I mean, wake up, folks. Good Lord. I mean, I can't believe that the Supreme Court is actually going to hear such a case, and I think everyone out there should be making some sort of a hoopla. Whether you like guns, whether you dislike guns, it really doesn't matter. They're trampling on our constitutionally protected rights here, folks. Nobody's talking about it. All right? Nobody is talking about it. 646-652-4869. We're talking about a whole bunch of different variety of different subject matters. You know, I had a debate, like I stated, previous evening, and if you haven't heard the archives, folks, please, by all means, check out the archives. We get in all kinds of heated debates, and let me tell you something, at times I scream my head off so much where it damn near sounds like I'm going to have a damn coronary on the line here, but I'm not. The bottom line is that I am passionate about what I believe in. I actually mean what I say what I mean. I'm not like these obnoxious jagoffs that are out here, you know, spewing off a bunch of nonsense, folks. I mean, the bottom line is I love America. I mean, America is my homeland. I care about the United States Constitution. I think everyone should carry a copy of the Constitution on them. And they're very easy, folks. If you were on a computer, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, won't you just Google up the Constitution and print out a copy of it and carry it in your pocket? How about that? It's not that hard, folks. It's not that hard. And I think that we should have the right to bear arms, and there shouldn't be any kind of limit on it. Any kind of limit. Anybody who tries to set a limit is only setting a slippery slope on withering away the amendment accorded to us by our forefathers. And people need to understand that. I'm sick and tired of these damn liberal, long-haired, bedwetting hippies that are hugging a tree, saving a whale, that are trying to make the debate that if we take all the guns away, it's going to be a utopia. Yeah, it's going to be a utopia. Yeah, right. Are you kidding me? You outlaw the guns. The only people that are going to have guns are the outlaws. Do you understand that? Do you understand that? We need the right to bear arms because our forefathers gave us that constitutionally protected right. And we have a veteran in the room. Thank you for your service there, Paul. And you see, folks, this is what people out here fight for, okay? We're not out here fighting for some international scheme of things, all right? We're fighting for America. And that's the way it should be. We should be talking about America's interests, okay? That's what we should be talking about. What's going to be better for America? What's going to be better for America? And I'm sick and tired of hearing a bunch of people talking a bunch of hoopla that means two diddly squats about American issues, about American people. I mean, this issue out of Montana, folks, and please, by all means, if you've got an opinion on this, I want to hear your opinion, okay? I want to hear your opinion. Right now, out of Montana, the Supreme Court is going to hear a case in June on whether or not the Second Amendment of the Constitution, okay, your right to bear arms, the Second Amendment of the Constitution, it is going to be argued on whether or not the Second Amendment of the Constitution is interpreted as Second Amendment as it pertains to the United States citizens, or did they mean the Second Amendment as it pertains to the National Guard and not the United States citizens? That's right, folks. They are trying to take away our right to bear arms. And this is very serious, and I think that everybody should do their research on this. I think this is very scary, folks. All right? We should have our constitutionally protected right to bear arms, and any kind of liberal agenda, whether they're utilizing the court systems or whether they're utilizing any manipulative bureaucracy to try to rid our Second Amendment rights, these people are just trying to implement communism or quasi-socialism, folks. You outlaw guns, the only people that are going to have guns are the outlaws, and all these liberal longhairs that are hugging trees, saving whales, you know, doing all this garbage, singing Kumbaya, they need to understand that people have the right to bear arms. Our forefathers thought it was an important enough issue. They thought it was important enough to make it the second, okay? That's right before the first, okay? Second Amendment of the Constitution. And I want to hear your perspective, folks. And it doesn't matter who you are. I encourage you, whether you think that all guns should be outlawed, whatever your perspective might be, I want you to grow a pair. Get on the phone right now, 646-652-4869. Tell me what you think. Do you think there should be some sort of limit on the Second Amendment? How do you interpret the Second Amendment? I mean, let's hear it from you. I want to hear it from the people, folks. Come on down and give me a call right now, 646-652-4869. I don't think there should be a limit, folks. I don't think there should be any kind of limit on the Second Amendment. Anybody who puts a limit on the Second Amendment is going to put a slippery slope down to withering away the damn amendment itself, folks. I don't understand why people don't understand this. You know, I had a Republican last night, and I believe a bleeding heart liberal. And we were talking about this subject matter, and both of them were saying that there should be a limit, you know. They both said there should be a limit. One of them asked me, well, Ghost, is it okay for somebody to have 20 guns? And I told them, well, why not? And they said, well, I don't know about 20 guns. You know, why should somebody have 20 guns? Well, why in the blue hell not, okay? I mean, guns aren't some cheap garbage you just, you know, get from a candy machine, okay? These are expensive pieces of machinery here. And if somebody is spending their hard-earned money, just as long as they're not a criminal, just as long as they're a law-abiding citizen, they have no criminal record, okay, and they obtain the firearms through legal means and go through the proper bureaucratic channels to do whatever it takes to make sure that these are legitimate guns, okay? I don't see it a problem if anybody has 20, 30, 50, 70. I don't care what. There should not be a limit. The bottom line is that this person feels that they are exercising their Second Amendment of the Constitution that was accorded by the forefathers. They are exercising their Second Amendment, and they can have as many guns as they feel like it, and that's all there is to it. Anybody else that tries to put some sort of restriction on it is a damn liberal bedwetter that's probably sitting over there sucking on their thumb, hoping that they don't get invaded or they don't get intruded on in their personal property, because they're going to be left stuck like Chuck, if you will. That's right. I tell you, I like orange soda. Just took a chug of orange soda right here. And I'm sure it's full of all that high fructose corn syrup. But who gives a darn? I mean, you know, we're living vices out here. I mean, you've got people shoveling bonbons in their hole like a damn garbage disposal. It really doesn't matter. All right? I mean, you've got people frying cheese, for Christ's sake. But the bottom line is, folks, is we got to start worrying about the American Constitution, okay? We got to start worrying about the American issues that are going to pertain to us all, okay? We can't start thinking about all this collateral garbage. We need to worry about American sovereignty. We need to understand that we need our constitutional protected rights protected, okay? What's going on, poor people? And we understand that the United States Supreme Court is going to hear a case out of Montana. And I want to hear your opinions, folks. I mean, maybe you don't have an opinion. Maybe you think it's okay for the government to collect our guns. Maybe you think it's okay. Maybe you think it'll be a utopia. Whatever the case might be, I want you to give me a call right now and talk to me about it. 646-652-4869. Straight off the hot wire, folks. The Supreme Court is going to hear a case about our right to bear arms. It's out of Montana, folks, and I want everybody to look this up. I want everybody to go and call and talk to whoever they need to spread the message about this ridiculous garbage that's going on in the Supreme Court. What is happening is that they're going to argue on whether or not, all right, whether or not the Second Amendment, folks, is interpreted for the civilians. And this is what the Supreme Court is going to argue. They're going to argue whether or not the Second Amendment was interpreted for the civilians of the United States or the National Guard specifically. That's right, folks. That's right. The Supreme Court is actually going to hear a case on whether or not the Constitution, the Second Amendment, was interpreted for the American citizens and not specifically and exclusively for the National Guard. And I think people need to be concerned about this, folks. We don't need the Second Amendment being taken away. And, you know, this is kind of a little bit of irony here, because this kind of case was announced today that the Supreme Court is going to hear this case. I think the Supreme Court should be ashamed of themselves taking a case on this basis. The basis is that they can take our guns away based on a misinterpretation of the Constitution for the past 200 some odd years. That's what they're trying to say. That the Second Amendment of the Constitution wasn't meant for the United States citizens, that the Second Amendment of the Constitution was meant specifically for the National Guard. It's ridiculous, folks. That's all there is to it, folks. All right, and the bottom line is that we need to let people know that they're trying to take away our Second Amendment. All right? They're trying to take away our Second Amendment, folks. And I want to know what you have to say about it, all right? I mean, maybe you're happy about it. Maybe you're happy that we're transitioning into a Mao Zedong quasi-communist socialist government out here that's trying to spew off nothing but a bunch of malarkey. Maybe you're for all this garbage. 646-652-4869. Tell me what's going on. Tell me on whether or not you think that the Second Amendment should be just for the National Guard and not for American citizens. This is the Supreme Court, folks. This is hot off the wire. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. 646-652-4869. I mean, the Supreme Court is actually, all right, is actually going to be hearing a case on whether or not the Second Amendment of the Constitution was written for
American citizens, folks. American citizens. You know, according to someone else, they think that the Second Amendment was pertaining specifically and exclusively to the National Guard. And if the Supreme Court rules in that favor, if the Supreme Court rules that, hey, let me tell you something, we're going to have to collect all the America's guns because we've misinterpreted the Constitution. We've misinterpreted the Constitution for the past 200-something years. The Second Amendment wasn't meant for the United States citizens. Sorry, folks. It was meant specifically and exclusively and only for the National Guard. So we're going to have to take away your guns away. Sorry. And this is an actual case that's going to be heard here by the Supreme Court. And I want to hear your opinion about it. Maybe you're happy. Maybe you're jumping for joy. You know, maybe you think that, you know, we should have all our guns being taken away. Maybe you think it's a damn utopia or something, okay? I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you feel about the Supreme Court wanting any kind of regulation on our constitutional protected right, the Second Amendment. And we've got a call here, 407 area code, you're on the air.
Hey, Ghost, it's Ryan from Politics with a Twist. How's it going?
How's it going, man?
Well, you know, I want to know how the Supreme Court can even hear this, seeing as the Second Amendment was created in, what the hell did I just put in the chat room? Second Amendment was, I just lost it.
Well, the bottom line is that they're taking it.
1791, and the National Guard was created in 1903. So how in 1791 did they know that the National Guard was going to be created, and then that's what they meant it for?
Well, that's exactly what they're trying to argue in this Montana case, and you know that I'm hearing, and of course I need to do some more research on this subject matter, but this is hot off the wire. They're threatening if they lose this case that they're going to secede from the Union. This is Montana, the state of Montana. You should read into this. This is very serious garbage that's going on here, and this is whether or not the Second Amendment is a constitutionally protected right for the United States citizens, or if it's a constitutionally protected right based on the National Guard, exclusively for the National Guard.
I'll tell you what, they can take my guns when they pry them from my cold, dead hands.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, is this America that we're living in here? I mean, this is why I get on here and try to talk about subject matters of this nature. I don't hear anybody talking about this. All I hear is, McCain-Huckabee, when both of these power-hungry autocrats aren't talking anything about the American person, about what's affecting American people, and that's the economy. That's the fact that government is being more and more in our faces. I mean, Republicans used to be less government, less taxes. And it seems to me that the Republican Party is completely opposite, and it's obvious on the left. Well, you can forget about those communists on the left. You notice how everybody on the left is jumping for joy?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, they are jumping for joy. I mean, they think this is the greatest time in American history. And let me tell you something, I wouldn't be surprised if we have a lot of propaganda, you know, given the media out here trying to insinuate that we should have our guns being taken away. And you're right. You're absolutely right about this misinterpretation of the Constitution garbage. I mean, do you think there should be a limit there, Twist?
No, I really don't. And, you know, if they want to take our guns, then, you know, they're going to have another civil war. I guarantee it. They're going to have another civil war on their hands. They try to take these guns.
Well, you know, that's just interesting to me that the Supreme Court would hear such a case based on such a ridiculous argument on whether or not we've had a completely misinterpreted Second Amendment for the past 200-some-odd years. I mean, this is the basis of the case that the Supreme Court's going to hear here in June. And the premise is that the Second Amendment was misinterpreted and that it didn't pertain to the United States citizens and that it pertained exclusively to the National Guard.
Yeah, well, it's funny how I just, you know, like I said before, that can't be. I want to know what they're smoking that, you know, that they can think that when the National Guard was created 200 and some odd years after the Second Amendment.
And I agree with you, but this is our Supreme Court here. You know, this is the Supreme Court, and I think that people need to start writing the NRA, other gun groups. I think they need to start writing their congressmen and telling them or asking them, are you serious Are you serious? I mean, is this the new America we're living in here? You know that we're battling here in Texas. I'm living down here in Texas by the NAFTA superhighway. I don't know if you're too familiar with that.
Yeah, actually, my buddy Matt, Patriot Action, he lives in Texas around Waco.
And let me tell you something, what's happening here, because of the new eminent domain laws that were recently ruled about several years ago by this Supreme Court, okay, these eminent domain laws are taking away land from people that are in and around this I-35 corridor, is what they like to call it, because the I-35 corridor is going to be the new pipeline or the economic pipeline for NAFTA. And basically, it's just one step closer to merging all three nation states of Canada, the United States, and Mexico into one North American Union, so to speak, based on economic trade deals and commerce principles and that sort of thing. And I think that what's happening here, in my view, I think that we're having a public education system that is purposely dumbing down our population. They're dumbing down our population to the point where they don't understand the bureaucracies that are happening out here. They don't. As a matter of fact, they don't care. And like I said, all they care about is worrying about whether Britney Spears is going to shave her melon again or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all they care about. And now what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of weird, nefarious activities going on at the government level that seems very wary to me. I mean, and at this point, with the Supreme Court hearing such a case on whether or not our Second Amendment was interpreted for the United States citizens or specifically and exclusively to the National Guard, I think it's very scary.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Ghost. Thanks for having me on. I gotta run though, but I'll keep listening.
No problem, man. I thank you very much for calling in.
No problem.
Yeah, have a good one. Okay, we're going to take another caller here, 419.
Hey, Ghost. I just wanted to let you know that I found a little bit more, breaking news about this.
Okay.
The same link that I posted earlier, and it says right here that someone who has been researching it, they said that the Montana Secretary of State is agreeing to begin the secession process, seceding from the government, if that ruling goes against Montana in June.
So they're really serious about secession if the ruling is against Montana.
Yep, I'm going to post the link in the chat room.
All right, everybody, go ahead and click that link if you happen to be in the chat room. If you're not, if you're listening to us elsewhere, you can get to the chat room at www.blogtalkradio.com/ghost. This is some very serious stuff here.
Yeah, it's like they're saying that the Secretary of State has gone as far as to say that they will begin the process if they lose that hearing coming in June. I just wanted to make sure that it's out there because I posted the link in the chat room. With the Secretary of State, and then when you look at the list of the people who are involved and who are behind this and who are proposing this, we're talking about senators, congressmen. These are not just like Joe Schmo living in the woods, and it's bigger than that.
Unbelievable that this is happening here in America, but I mean, you know what? I mean, if Montana has to take a stand, well, they just have to take a stand for our rights to bear arms. This is ridiculous.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. I'm going to go ahead and go, but I just wanted to make sure that you know that it's kind of snowballing a little bit, and I know that. I mean, there's a couple of other states that are talking about, there's actually dialogue about leaving the continuous 48. I mean, it's really interesting, but I just wanted to put that out there. I'm going to go back to listening.
Oh, I appreciate it, Heather.
No problem.
All right, you have a good one. Well, folks, this is very serious stuff, what's happening here, folks, and I suggest to all of you, talk to this, with your friends, your family. Share this episode if you can, folks. Once this live episode goes off the air, we have a share option. Send this show to people. We need people to understand that this is very serious stuff, what's happening here, and it just happened by chance, folks. This is just hot off the wire. I mean, I just wanted to talk about the Second Amendment because I don't agree with any limit being put on the Second Amendment. And lo and behold, here today, the Supreme Court of the United States is going to hear a case based in Montana
on whether or not the Second Amendment is viable to the United States people. Can you believe that, folks? The Supreme Court is going to hear a case on whether or not the Second Amendment was meant for the United States citizens, or was it meant specifically and exclusively and only for the National Guard. And this is what the Supreme Court is going to hear. It's going to hear it in June, folks, and I think people need to start making a little bit of a hoopla about it before the Second Amendment is basically trampled on. It's going to be basically trampled on, and I don't believe that we need the Second Amendment to be trampled on, folks. I mean, our forefathers thought it was important enough to make it the Second Amendment of the Constitution. That's one in back of the First Amendment, folks. The Second Amendment of the Constitution, and I think that more people need to stand up and understand that our rights are being taken away out here. This is the same Supreme Court that ruled this new eminent domain law that happened, or that was recently set precedent about 4 years ago. What happens is that you've got people here in America, specifically here in Texas, based on the I-35 corridor out here. The I-35 corridor is what we know of as the NAFTA superhighway. Well, the NAFTA superhighway is being built, folks. And what's happening here is you've got people that are living in and around this I-35 corridor that are getting their land taken away from them based on this eminent domain precedent. And they're getting their land taken away from them, no questions asked. And what's happening? Who's building the I-35 corridor? Well, it's based on your tax dollars. Well, my tax dollars. I'm in Texas. But, who's going to collect the tolls? Who's going to collect the tolls on all the toll roads going beyond the I-35 corridor? Well, it's going to be a government that is a socialist. Basically, the people that won the bid on creating the toll road was this Spaniard company based out of socialist Spain. So right now, what we're doing is we're building a NAFTA superhighway that's going to be a toll road to get in and out of the North American Union here, okay? And what's going to happen is these damn socialist Spaniards are going to collect all the tolls being collected on this particular highway that's built with my taxpaying dollars. And we've got land, okay, that was given to these people long before this United States was even erected, okay? I mean, here in Texas, we're real traditional, folks, okay? And people that have land out here had it when this damn Texas was its own country. And you've got this new eminent domain precedent taking away land from innocent people right here in Texas based on this NAFTA superhighway. And let me tell you something about this NAFTA superhighway, folks. It is I-35, Interstate 35, and what it does, it's going to go all the way into South America, come up through Mexico, come into Texas. And once it comes into Texas, there's going to have this toll kind of road, so to speak, that'll get you anywhere else in the North Americas, all the way into Canada. And this is going to be the new economic pipeline to what I thought, and this is what I thought was a theory. I thought it was just a bunch of hoopla, but the more and more these laws are passed, the more and more these free trade agreements are passed, the more and more I see the devalued dollar, I'm starting to think that we're headed towards some sort of a North American Union, folks. We're headed towards a North American Union, and we're going to merge all three North American continents, or all three of North American sovereign bodies, excuse me. We're going to, take Canada, we're going to take the United States, we're going to take Mexico, and we're going to be unified by some trade deal. Why do you think people aren't having a big problem by stopping our borders? How about that? How come nobody cares about the 20 million illegals that are basically making the American sovereignty unstable? Haven't you noticed that, folks, that these people aren't worried about how many people cross our borders out here? They're trying to ruin American sovereignty out here. And yes, we all heard about the Amero Firehawk. You know, I thought it was all a bunch of malarkey, to be honest with you. I thought all this North American Union stuff, all this Amero garbage was a bunch of malarkey, but I'm sitting here right here in Texas. I'm at the front line of this garbage, and I'm seeing the NAFTA superhighway being built right here in Texas. I'm seeing land being taken away from folks that live in and around the I-35 corridor that are having their land taken away from them based on the Supreme Court precedent on eminent domain, and the government's just taking it from them so they can build this garbage. It's just crap, and we got ourselves another caller. We're just going to see what they have to say. 314 area code, you're on the air.
Hello, this is Knight Rider. I'm new to the chat room.
How you doing, Knight Rider?
Pretty good. I'm gonna be starting a new show focusing on the North American Union and other stuff like that.
Oh yeah, well, can you give us a little insight on it? I mean, I've only vaguely talked about it because, to be honest with you, when I first heard about it, which was some time ago, it was basically a theory out of a think tank idea. You know these little think tanks that come together, bring ideas together, write a paper on it, and it was that kind of an idea. But now it's starting to flourish into actual political and social substance. So, if for all those that don't know about it, you can give them just a brief synopsis about it.
Yeah, hang on. Let me bring up my papers real quick. I have on my computer. I got them saved on here. The North American Union is basically started from the SPP, Security, Prosperity, and Protections Act, out of the Independent Task Force on North America. Security and Prosperity Partnership of North America, SPP.gov.
Yeah.
It claims this to be an economical type deal with the United States, Canada, and Canada. The United States, Canada. I'm sorry, I'm stuttering here. I'm coming down with something. The United States, Canada, and Mexico. It claims to be just an economical and type of another NAFTA type deal, basically.
And what's unfortunate about this is that what's happening based on all these trade deals and based on all this economic-driven legislation and secret treaties and whatnot, what's happening here is we're seeing a invisible merging of Canada, of the United States, and Mexico, correct?
Yeah, and according to the timeline, there's supposed to be some kind of formal establishment by 2010.
By 2010? So 2010, we're headed down a road to where we're going to combine Canada, Mexico, and America.
Some kind of formal recognition of some kind of program, something like that. Don't know if it'll be the full program, but some form is supposed to, according to the timeline, supposed to happen around 2010.
Well, let me tell you something. I wouldn't doubt it. And I'm here at the front lines. I'm in Texas, and you give all what's happening out here. It's just very scary to me, the direction America's going. I mean, because I'm an American first and foremost. I love America. I believe in the American Constitution. You've got the Supreme Court now that's going to hear a case. I don't know if you were here with us, Knight Rider, about what we were talking about.
Yes, I was.
The Second Amendment is going to be debated in the Supreme Court on whether or not the Second Amendment was interpreted for the American people, or was it meant for specifically and only and exclusively for the National Guard?
No, I read it. It says the militia and the right of the people, too.
It's just ridiculous. I cannot believe that the Supreme Court is actually going to hear such nonsense.
What you're just going to see is more people form militias.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's going to have a horrible effect on my view. I mean, what is going on with America? And you see, I never really believed in all this North American Union stuff, and I never really believed in the Amero. I thought it was, because it's all think tank stuff, I mean, it's all this, bunch of intellectual nimrods that are funded by a bunch of fat cats that come up with a paper, and this paper somehow, gets through the bureaucratic channels of political bureaucracy, and lo and behold, it's starting to become legislation, man.
Yeah, they can take my guns, but they got to get my bullets first.
I hear you on that.
If you catch my drift.
So what do you think, what's going to happen if the Supreme Court happens to rule that, the United States Second Amendment of the Constitution was misinterpreted for the past couple of 100 years, and it didn't mean for the people, it meant for the National Guard, and we're going to have to confiscate guns. What's going to happen?
I don't know. I think we're going to have a lot of problems on our hands, and I think it also depends on who gets in office in 2008, too.
You really? Who do you think would be the best candidate?
I know I don't trust the two Marxists that are running right now with my Second Amendment rights. I trust McCain more, even though I'm not voting for McCain.
McCain is for some gun suppression, I mean,
I said,
it's in his record.
I trust McCain more than I do the two Marxists that are running.
I agree. Both of them have said that, they need they want to ban guns. That doesn't mean I'm
voting for McCain. I'm just saying I trust him more than those two.
Yeah, and I'm not, as a matter of fact, I'm not voting for anybody for this presidential nomination, sir. What I'm doing is I'm waiting. I'm going a grassroots campaign. I'm going to start worrying about my local, my state representatives, my congressional and Senate seats. I'm going to worry about those people and make sure they know who I am. And I strongly advise everyone out there, these people work for you. Make sure they know who you are. Write them letters, write them emails, give them calls. Make sure they know what's on your mind. And if they don't listen to you, well, go out and make a hoopla about it and start holding out signs about how you were dissed by Congressman so-and-so. And believe me, they'll start talking about you then. They'll start thinking about, what's concerning you a little bit more then, in my view. Remember, we elect these people. We give these people our money to represent us in office, and what they're doing is selling us out like a bunch of mule cattle.
All right, well, thank you. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in, and I'll continue to listen. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Knight Rider. I mean, this is getting sad, folks. I don't understand why nobody else is talking about these subject matters, about what's going on here. I mean, is this America now, folks? Is this what America's turned into? I mean, they're taking our Constitution and they're wiping their dirty ass cracks with it. And excuse my French, but geez, man. I mean, whatever happened to the United States Constitution, for Christ's sake? Whatever happened to America? I'm sorry I'm yelling, folks. But I feel like breaking something right now. I mean, I feel like breaking something. I feel like throwing something. I mean, it just gets me upset that nobody else is talking about these subject matters. All anybody's doing is talking about, McCain, Huckabee, these collateral, dumbass issues that no one gives two rats' asses about. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about American issues, things that worry American people. And you see, all these candidates, all they're talking about is handouts. You notice that? They're just talking about giving you money. They're talking about, here, let me give you some money. That's socialism, folks. We're Americans. We don't want your money, the government. All we want you to do is make an economic landscape comparable for more jobs so we can work for our living, so we can work for our money. That's what we're asking from you idiots in Washington. We just want some jobs out here so we can work with dignity, so we can maintain sustenance and then have a little left over to live for ourselves, for Christ's sake. That's what we want. But you idiots are more worried about giving us things like we're a bunch of lab rats running for food pellets, for Christ's sake. Damn it, man. I mean, I just broke something right now because it's just upsetting me here. Oh, great. I made a mess all over the place. I'm breaking things, in my own home, folks, because I'm upset at the fact that there's nobody else talking about this garbage. All everybody's doing is sticking a Kentucky Fried Chicken grease thumb up their poop chutes, seeing how it feels because, they're getting ready for the big, schlong head to get ready to do them. I just don't know what to say, folks. Oh, man. I mean, I just believe in America. I believe in the Constitution. Remember that? Remember that, folks? Hello, I'm over here now. I'm over here. I'm in the Constitution. Anyway, folks, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm breaking stuff all over the place. I got a mess I got to pick up here. Good God. But I'm sorry, folks. I mean, I'm breaking stuff here because I'm passionate about what I believe in, folks. I believe in America. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that we should be worrying about our own issues, about what affects American people. And what's affecting America? Well, the fact that the means of production, that are completely over there in communist China. They're in Mexico. They're in other parts of the world, and there's no jobs for us here. All these poor folks have been laid off because their jobs have been shipped off to another country, okay? And then you've got those folks that have been laid off. They have to compete in a job market, okay, where you've got 20 million illegal immigrants devaluing the cost of labor. You're asking them to compete in that crap. This is a shame, folks. We need to start worrying about America. We need to start worrying about the devaluing of the American dollar. We need to start being a little bit more fiscally responsible. We need to start demanding from our candidates, from our politicians, and say, hey, you need to make an economic landscape that's going to be comparable for job creation, you piece of crap. Stop giving away our jobs. Stop doing it. I'm telling you. And I know everybody in here is probably a little upset. I'm sure everybody's listening to me and wondering, why in the blue hell am I getting so upset out here? Why am I breaking things? But the bottom line is that I care about America, folks. That's all it is. I care about America. I mean, our land of the free is no longer going to be free anymore. As a matter of fact, I mean, just looking at all the legislation that's being passed at every level of the government, whether it's at the state level, whether it's at the federal level, it doesn't really matter. The bottom line is that we have a government that is selling us out in the world market. And I'm not just saying that. Look, I hate conspiracy theorists, folks. Believe me, I hate these Nimrods. All right? I mean, I think conspiracy theorists actually deviate from actual true intellectual discourse. But if you look at the facts, if you look at what's going on around you, if you look at the devalued dollar, if you look at the fact that there's retail outlets right here in New York City that are no longer accepting the American dollar and that will only accept euro dollars, when you take into consideration that the means of production are no longer in the United States of America, you take into consideration that there's 20 million illegal immigrants devaluing the cost of labor, you take into consideration that energy prices and everything else is on inflation, you take all that crap into consideration and you understand why the American person is having a hard time making it out here. All right, I mean, that's all I'm talking about, folks, and we need these damn candidates to start worrying about us, for Christ's sake, and not worrying about their damn lobbyists. And that's why I urge all of you folks, find out who your bastard politician is. Find out who it is. And once you find out who it is, go out there and write to these people. Call these people. Email these people. This is your right. These people work for you. Okay? Don't let these people into believing that, because they're wearing a suit and tie and they're able to take trips to Washington, that they're any better than you. They're not. You elected them, and you need to look into who you're electing as well. You need to understand and find out where they're educated. Go out and ask them some critical questions, folks. I understand right now that public education is basically taking the whole concept of critical thinking, taking the whole concept of creativity and innovation out of the minds of our youth. We need to put it back in there, folks. We need to stop thinking that it's so bad to pick up a book and start reading. We need to stop thinking that, folks. I mean, I reach a lot of people with this program, and if you take anything from this program, it's that maybe we should stop looking at so much television and read something. If you're within the sound of my voice, you have an internet connection. The internet is one of the greatest innovations of all time. It creates the possibilities of you having access to 1 billion libraries, to 1 billion pieces of content, trillions, billions, unlimited number. Go out there and read. Go out there and learn something. That's the only way we're going to get ourselves out of the mess we're in. I'm calling for a new enlightenment. That's what I'm calling for. I urge all of you, to participate in being a part of this new enlightenment movement. Pick up a damn book. That's all I'm suggesting, folks. And when I tell you to pick up a book, don't look at me cross-eyed. Don't look at the screen cross-eyed. Oh, a book. That's right, you're going to need to pick up a damn book. You need to read something. You need to feed your head with some sort of intellectual curiosity. You need to do something, folks. And stop reading this fiction garbage, okay? All right, it's no time to read fiction anymore. All right, we need to start reading nonfiction books. We need to start reading all kinds of material. You know what? Go to Gutenberg.org. Gutenberg.org. Read about all this garbage. Read about, the roots of democracy. Read about the roots of political theory. Read right now about what's going on. I mean, take a look at the newspapers. You can get a free New York Times. I just suggest New York Times, but Washington Post, whoever. You can get whatever you want. It's usually a free online subscription. Get a subscription to a paper. Get a subscription to some media outlets. Make sure that you go outside of the realm of regular mainstream news and understand that you've got the world at your fingertips. All right, you got the world at your fingertips, and you know what, Ozone, I can't recommend you a book. We're living in freedom. This is the freedom of thought. I'm not trying to sit here and dictate to anybody what they should do, but what they need to do is understand that we need to read a little bit. Why don't you read a little bit about our government? How about that? Read a little bit about our government, how it's constructed, how people are elected, why they're elected. Read about the Electoral College. Read about the fact that these primaries that we're going through right now actually mean diddly. Read a little bit about that. If you folks in the chat room have any books that you want to suggest, man, suggest them in the chat room, folks. Believe me, I'm taking this real serious. All right, I'm taking America, the American Constitution, the American way of life. I'm taking all this very serious. I'm right now. I'm in construction with websites. I'm trying to produce content. I'm trying to do whatever it takes, and I think that everyone should too, to make everyone realize that we want a new enlightenment era. It doesn't matter if we agree on all the same philosophy. It doesn't matter if we agree with all the same political perspectives. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you have the knowledge to defend yourself. I have the knowledge to defend myself. That's what it's about, folks. You've got the knowledge wizard at your fingertips right here with the internet. Right here on the internet, folks. And I'm not telling you what to do. You get a lot of, Republicans out here saying, oh, well, you're telling people what to do by telling them not to vote. The only reason I'm telling them not to vote is because they're going to be contributing to the destruction of America. None of these candidates are talking about issues that pertain to America. Nobody's talking about the economy out here. I'm not talking about, ridiculous mumbo-jumbo. I'm talking about actual substance, folks. Why don't they, become a little bit more straight talk with us about the devaluing of the American dollar, about how American retail shops in New York are not accepting the American dollar and only accepting euros. Let's talk about why the Supreme Court is hearing a case against the Second Amendment on whether or not the Second Amendment was intended for United States citizens and not just for exclusive use for the National Guard. I mean, we need to start talking about these issues, folks. We need to start talking about freedom of speech. We need to start talking about these unalienable rights that were given to us by our forefathers that we're about to lose because we're so damn ignorant that we don't understand that they're being taken away from us. I love America, damn it, don't you? Don't you love America? I mean, think about it. This has been the greatest society ever in world history, okay? But it's going to turn into a pretty much universal society, a universal world society, if we don't understand that America is losing its sovereignty, and sooner or later we're going to be no different than every other schmo on this damn world. Don't you understand that? I mean, don't you love America? I mean, I beg all of you right now, and it's just a simple task. Why don't you take a copy of the Constitution? You can Google it up, print it out, and take it with you. Carry it with you, for Christ's sake. Read it, because those are your rights, and those rights are about to be made toilet paper from by these damn politicians that we send to Congress, that we send to the Senate, that we send to the White House. They're wiping their dairy heirs with the Constitution, and you people need to wake up, damn it. I mean, just look at what they're doing to the Second Amendment. The Supreme Court is going to hear a case on whether or not the Second Amendment was meant for the United States citizens, and not specifically and exclusively for the National Guard. I mean, can you believe this garbage? I just don't know, folks. I just don't know. I mean, sometimes I try to continue to have that damn optimism, you know, that fuel that keeps people going, you know. I mean, I'm a true conservative. I'm an old school Republican, but I'm an American first, damn it. I'm an American, damn it. And I want everyone out here, once, you know, you get off this little internet broadcast that I do here, won't you look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, you know, I've had a good life, haven't I? I mean, yeah, there's been some good times, there's been some bad times, but for the most part, I've had the American opportunity given to me, and I should be lucky. I mean, I could be in damn Africa right now being killed because I'm sitting in a windowless house getting bit by malaria-ridden mosquitoes, for Christ's sake. You got to understand that we're living in the greatest society on earth, but it's going to become nothing if we just stand by and do nothing about it. We need to hold these people accountable. We need to get a little smarter out here, damn it. And you don't need to be an articulate intellectual to have some goddamn common sense. All I'm asking, folks, is to go out. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're on the internet, go out, do some searching, okay? Do some searching, do some reading. There's all kinds of online encyclopedias. There's all kinds of online information databases. Go out there and read something. If you don't know something somebody says, look it up. Read a dictionary. Do whatever it takes. Because the public education didn't do it for you, folks. If the public education did do something for you, you'd be just as mad as I am right now. You would know what I'm talking about. You would know the fact that America's losing its sovereignty. You'll understand that everything is obviously a calculated reason. I never understood this before, folks. But I think that everything is happening for a calculated reason. And I've never been a conspiracy theorist, folks. I hate conspiracy theorists. But if you look at all the observations around you, and you read all the bills, all the legislation, all the trade deals, all the economics that's happening right underneath your nose, you're going to understand that these power-hungry autocrats that we send to Washington over there, they're selling us out. They're selling us out, and they're selling out the Constitution, and they're selling out the whole concept of America, folks. And I don't want that. Do you want America to end? Do you want America as we know it to end? Ask yourself that. Because if you think by just ignoring the political ramifications of our country that somehow all this garbage is going to go away, it's not going to go away. It actually feeds on that ignorance. It feeds on that naiveness. And you people need to understand this, folks. I mean, you really need to understand this. And like I said, I'm not trying to be some conspiracy theorist nut job out here. All I'm trying to do is spawn debate. And I encourage you, mail these shows out to people and ask them, hey, listen to this. What do you think about it? You don't have to agree with everything anybody says, but you have to understand, you take bits and pieces from what everybody says and you start thinking, hey, wait a minute. Pure observation will tell you that there's something going on here and it's not in America's best interest. And all I'm saying is let's spawn some debate about it. Let's talk about it. Anyway, folks, I really appreciate everyone for listening to me this evening. And I encourage everybody to take a look at our archives, and you can get back to them at www.blogtalkradio.com/ghost. Take a look at the archive, have some good times with us, and I strongly urge you to add me to your favorites because I don't have a set schedule right now. As a matter of fact, I'm taking requests on what time would be the perfect time to have true conservative radio. And if you have some times out there, by all means, email them to me. My email is on my webpage, www.blogtalkradio.com/ghost. Hit me up with an email, and we'll see what's going on from there. But all I'm asking you to do, folks, is read, go out there and spawn some debate, and talk to people. Go out there and ask people their opinions, and debate with them, and talk to them. That's all I'm asking, folks. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in with me this evening once again. Please get back to me. Shoot me an email. Get back to the webpage, www.blogtalkradio.com/ghost, GHOST. Get back to me and let me know what the best time would be to have true conservative radio right here. And I really appreciate it, folks. Thanks for everything. Long live the conservative movement. And death to feminism, and I'm out of here.
Boar's Head is bringing a slice of Japan to the deli. Introducing Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. Tender, slow-roasted chicken breast, coated in our signature teriyaki glaze, where ginger, garlic, and a hint of brown sugar meet for a flavor that's both sweet and savory. New Boar's Head Ichiban Teriyaki-style chicken. The bold flavor of Japan, now at the deli. Only from Boar's Head. Compromise elsewhere.